I know that this is a very difficult time for Australians in our Indian community. You are a generous and kind community who have made a wonderful contribution to our country. You add a joyous dimension to Australia's national life. And we are very grateful to our Indian community. And I know this is a time of great pain and great fear, as many families in Australia have lost loved ones in India. You know that we are witnessing in India an unfolding humanitarian catastrophe. Over 390,000 new cases of COVID reported in just the last 24 hours. And that's why last week the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Kelly, declared India a high-risk country for the purposes of travel arrangements into Australia. Throughout the pandemic, we have always taken decisions to keep Australians safe. These have been difficult decisions. They have ensured that here in Australia, we have been able to lead the world in our response to the pandemic. These decisions are often very difficult, but they are made with all Australians in mind, seeking to do the best in Australia's national interests. To put these latest developments in some context, in the week before we put restrictions in place, 57% of COVID-19 positive cases in our quarantine systems had come from people arriving from India. That was up from 10%. Even more worrying, at the Howard Springs quarantine facility in the Northern Territory, the COVID-19 positive rate hit 15%, with almost all cases arriving from India. In other words, 1 in 7 people were testing positive. This was not sustainable. We needed to take action to prevent the continued significant rise in case numbers in our quarantine. The reason for that, particularly at Howard Springs, is because that is where we bring our chartered repatriation flights. That is where we can provide the greatest assistance in the future to getting people home safely from India. But to do that, we need to ensure that these facilities are ready to accept those flights again. So the risk, friends, was simply too great. I'd like to share with you our plan to deal with this very difficult situation. Firstly, we are putting in temporary, let me stress, temporary measures to keep Australia safe. Second, to provide support to Australians who are still in India. And third, to provide significant humanitarian assistance to our wonderful and good friends in India, an amazing and supportive ally of Australia in so many areas of our actions. Let me explain what we are doing with each of these strategies. Keeping Australians safe by implementing a temporary pause on travellers from India entering Australian territory if the passenger has been in India within 14 days of the person's scheduled flight departure to Australia. I want to stress that if you have been outside of India for 14 days, there is no restriction on you re-entering Australia. This only involves people who have been in India for 14 days prior to their embarkation on their journey to Australia. Now, this is a temporary pause while we get other measures in place to support people travelling from India to be able to travel safely home and to ensure that that can be accommodated here in Australia. We will reconsider this temporary pause on the 15th of May and are reviewing it every day between now and then. We've based this decision on clear medical advice from our Chief Medical Officer, as we have indeed based all our decisions throughout the course of the pandemic, whether it was to close our borders over 12 months ago. And we have used the biosecurity laws in these cases as well in so many areas. And we have exercised those significant powers very, very judiciously and very reasonably. You will not have heard of any Australian who has faced any jail time or any jail sentence as a result of the use of these powers. They are the extent of these powers, but these powers are being used in a very reasonable and responsible way. The incidence of COVID-19 is so high that it poses a real risk of further transmission within Australia's quarantine facilities. And it includes a risk to quarantine workers and health workers and the broader community. This is why we have had to take these actions. Some people have said that we didn't need to put in place the same measures when dealing with travellers from the UK or the United States or Italy. That was at the start of the pandemic. All the way through the pandemic, we have learnt more and more. And the more virulent strains that are now presenting, whether from India, where the situation is most chronic, or more broadly, is increasing the risk. I cannot see a third wave of the virus come here to Australia. And as Prime Minister, I need to take decisions that ensures that we protect Australia. The volume of cases in India is putting much more pressure on our quarantine system than previous waves across the world did. So the situation has changed. The risks are even greater. Our borders have proved to be a very strong barrier to COVID, and we are keeping them strong. My first priority is always to keep you and your families safe. In India, our consular staff, led by our High Commissioner, Barry O'Farrell, are providing every support to the 9,000 registered Australians in India, including the 900 considered vulnerable. Over the course of the pandemic, we have already supported and facilitated, including in direct flights, some 20,000 Australians registered with DFAT having returned from India. And we have support measures in place through our hardship fund, which includes financial assistance. When the temporary pause is lifted, and it will, passengers on future flights will be required to have both a negative COVID-19 PCR test result and a negative rapid antigen test result prior to embarkation. We are putting those arrangements in place now. And lastly, but very importantly, we are providing emergency supplies to our friends in India. India is a great friend of Australia. Australia is a great friend of India. Our first package of support, and I stress this is just the first one, it's just the start, includes over 1,000 non-invasive ventilators and 100 oxygen concentrators. There is a capacity to deploy up to 3,000 ventilators to everyone in the Australian Indian community. I want to say thank you for your understanding. I know this is a hard decision. I know that it is causing concern. These are not easy decisions for governments to make in the middle of a raging pandemic. But I want to assure you we will continue to stand with you in the coming months, and we will stand with India, providing medical supplies and needed assistance and bringing Australians home when we can safely do so again. And we're not far away from that point. We will restore those repatriation flights from India. We will bring Australians of Indian heritage who are in India now, we will get them home. It will take time. We must work together. We must do it safely. I want to thank you for your patience and your understanding.
Authorised by S. Morrison, Liberal Party, Canberra.